Now, I'm sure I might drive many of you nuts when I bang on about how I'm a Christian, so I will do my best not to preach in any way here, but that does serve a value for me when I engage in the type of politics I do. What I mean is, if you embrace anything to the right of Jeremy Corbyn, it won't be long before the mainstream calls you full of hate and so forth. Now, as a Christian who's called to love rather than hate, I took this accusation very seriously. It made me contemplate my own beliefs very seriously. And ultimately, I feel quite morally sound in believing that mass immigration and multiculturalism are not optimal for the UK. Just as I don't believe that flooding a country like Japan full of dependents from every corner of the world isn't fair to them and their beautiful culture, nor them as a people, I also believe the same for my country and every country for that matter. I personally believe that unique cultures are gems of a given people that have been developed over time. They belong to certain peoples. That doesn't mean that you can't have any immigration or cultural exchange. That can be healthy, but it must be in manageable levels in which people have something to integrate into. Yet the globalist types have played quite a sleight of hand in convincing young people, and migrants too, that anybody who's against multiculturalism and mass immigration is some evil psychopath who simply hates other people. So one of the main reasons I started this channel was in an attempt to show that there is quite a strong ethical, personal, and political foundation to stand upon if you stand against the globalist project. This is why I believe that if we wish to make meaningful change, you have to have the courage to call out the limitations and wrongdoings of your own movement. Now, I know it can be grating doing this when you see just as much, if not more, hatred on the left than on our side of the camp, but personally I'm alright with that, as I've always seen conservatism as more of a mature movement, sort of like the adult in the room. And that's why I believe, while it may get on the nerves of many, we have to have the courage to call out people like Andrew Parker, who was canvassing for reform in Clacton and who made quite unkind comments towards Rishi Sunak. You may have noticed if you've been watching the channel for some time already that I'm not exactly fond of political correctness. However, I also think there is a line that has to be drawn between certain language used against people. That's not because I'm a fan of globalist liberalism, but because I think there's a basic level of human dignity. Henceforth, I'm not so bothered when Mr. Parker calls the LGBTQ flag degenerate and states the movement has nonces in it. These statements are his personal opinions, and if we're honest, aren't without merit, and I'll have to leave it there to keep the channel up, but I think you get my drift. Yet when he starts calling Rishi Sunak an effing P-word, I think he's crossed a line. Not only is this ugly language on a human level, it's always language like this that ends up smearing any movement that's traditionalist. Essentially, the MSM are going to take this one to the bank and accuse anybody who doesn't agree with the message of the Uni Party of engaging in such language themselves. This is another reason why populist movements always get trounced by Blairism, because the floating voters, though being interested in some of the ideas, think, yeah, that's a bit too strong for me, I don't want to be engaging in that sort of stuff. This is why it's my belief that if you're going to engage in ideas outside of the globalist mainstream, you're going to have to make sure that your heart is pure, that you're sincere in what you believe. And yeah, I know it's annoying when the mainstream will accuse you of being full of hate and so forth when you just value your country and wish to see your culture maintained. But there is something that needs to be said about modern politics, and that's that you're better off approaching it with a sense of peace rather than anger. Much of the modern media wants to wind you up into fits of anger because when you're emotional you can be easily manipulated. Yet I believe political beliefs or a political mission in life, however big or small, should be something that gives to your life rather than takes. What I mean is, it should be something that provides you with a vision, with a sense of mission, with a sense of peace, not something that gets you angry and wound up and leads you to arguing with people on Twitter. Further, and this is a bitter pill here, in the Christian tradition, you're taught to love your enemy. That doesn't mean accept everything they say. That doesn't mean welcome every wrongdoing they do. You can still pursue justice. What this approach allows you to do is stay calm and not get lost in seeing the other person as evil and yourself as good. All that approach really does is serve the ego and make you feel better for a short moment. Yet if you really want to affect change, you have to be able to stay calm and balanced and not get lost in your emotional nature. An approach of anger always gives lots of short-term returns, but in the long run ends up destroying you and the movement that you fight for. Any movement that's going to truly aid our country in its hour of need is going to be rooted in wisdom, calm, balance, certainty, vision, not anger and emotions. Further, having this approach in your personal life improves that tenfold, whether that's something like prayer and meditation to give you peace, whether it's walks in nature, whether it's enjoying great food with your family and connecting with loved ones. Whatever it is that gives your life more meaning and speaks more to your broader political vision is something that serves you and that you fight for. Anyway, enough preaching from me today. Do let me know your thoughts down below and do consider subscribing to the channel.